was clean before the Concorde.
There were people flying higher than everybody travelling on Concorde and the astronauts.
The Concorde project was what proved that two nations can work together.
There are some things which you wonder how man created them.
Every time it went over, people looked up and we watched it.
Just a bit proud to be part of that history.
We left London at 10:30 in the morning and we got to New York at 9:25 in the morning. Two different places at the same time, so to speak. You outpace time.
This is Concorde. This is Golf Bravo Oscar Alpha Alpha. A symbol from a different time, when we dreamed of luxury and speed, when we reached for the sky. But what of the remarkable life of this machine? What of the people who built Alpha Alpha? What of the people who flew with her? This, then, is the story of Alpha Alpha.
Alpha Alpha was the first aircraft to go into service with British Airways in January 1976, and it also made the inaugural Concorde flight with British Airways to New York a year and a half later.
The Concorde programme was born out of the Cold War. Embodying the newfound spirit of European cooperation, Britain entered a treaty with France to produce the world's first passenger craft capable of breaking the sound barrier. Together, they would produce the most advanced passenger craft ever made.
It reflects a day and an age when engineers, creative people working on this sort of project were thinking not of corporate profit margins, they were thinking of a future in which technology could be made to do remarkable things.
I think everybody who was involved with Concorde felt it was very, very special. There was that something extra at Concorde. It was something that nobody else had managed to do. It was something that pushed the frontiers of science and engineering way beyond what we'd seen up to that day. And to be involved in that, it gave us great pride.
The one thing that the Concorde never ever was routine. Every single time it flew, it was different. It's difficult to put into words, but when the crew transport drove you down to the ramp and you got off the bus and looked up at this aeroplane, you couldn't help but be excited about what you were about to do. It was always inspirational.
The Concorde is really quite different from all the subsonic aircraft, and especially on takeoff where we use a system called readings or afterburning. So the acceleration during takeoff is really quite phenomenal, and it's something that we managed throughout the year, from the first takeoff to the last takeoff. And everyone's realised acceleration is just in a fast car, and you put your foot down and it accelerates. The difference in the Concorde is it doesn't stop, it just keeps accelerating and keeps accelerating.
Those lucky enough to be able to afford a ticket on Alpha Alpha were not just buying time, they were buying into a set of ideals. You were visiting the future when you flew on Concorde. It must have felt like a trip on a spacecraft.
The thing that I really did enjoy the most was being able to look out of the window and literally be able to see the curvature of the earth and to think, I'm sitting here
much a part of Alpha Alpha as its revolutionary tilting nose cone and Rolls-Royce Olympus engines were the people who worked on the plane, the engineers, the cabin crew. They all felt privileged to play their part in the life of such a magnificent craft.
5 years of my life, I was lucky enough to work on Concorde and experience the aircraft. And it was something I wanted to achieve within my career, and I did it.
From picking up a flight in pause and doing a hot tank and drinks before takeoff. After takeoff, I do drinks again, and in the service. And all this would take a good 3 hours. It's literally non-stop. The aircraft then in very hot fumes, being active and friction again.
During her 25-year working life, Alpha Alpha flew over much of the globe. Destinations included Paris, Bahrain, Miami, Singapore, Calcutta, Auckland and Barbados. 22,768 hours and 56 minutes in the air, taking off 8,064 times and going through 6,842 supersonic cycles. The continued operation of Concorde was called into question on the 25th of July 2000 on a runway at Charles de Gaulle Airport. An Air France Concorde crashed shortly after takeoff. A piece of debris burst a tyre that caused the fuel tank to rupture, and fuel caught fire, which eventually led to 2 engines failing and the aircraft crashing. 113 people died. Following the crash, Alpha Alpha was grounded for 8 months while the fate of the fleet was decided. 5 of the other Concorde were upgraded in the light of the lessons from the crash and continued service. Alpha Alpha never flew again.
After the tragic accident in Paris, we flew for, I think it was about 10 days following that. And I flew this aircraft in from New York, and it turned out to be Alpha Alpha's last ever landing.
Air France and BA took the decision to retire Concorde due to the need for large-scale maintenance work and the changes in the economic climate of the air industry.
The footing out disease, the SARS scare, 9/11, the Gulf War, just a whole catalogue of events. It was just nailing Concorde into the ground.
In October 2003, British Airways chose the final homes for Concorde. The National Museums of Scotland's Museum of Flight was one of the new guardians. As Alpha Alpha had not been modified after the Paris crash and so was not allowed to fly, another route had to be found from Heathrow to its new home at the Museum of Flight.
Within the 6 months between the announcement and actually getting the aircraft, we've done some initial planning, but in October of 2003 the elections actually, and we had to involve something approaching sort of 100 different organisations, individuals and agencies to get permission to move such a mammoth load. I think for me one of the most exciting things was to see this aircraft moving through the streets of London during the night, and people coming out of their houses to see it and being amazed to see Concorde going past their front gardens, in many cases actually over their front gardens. And then down the River Thames, it was the furthest up the River Thames that a vessel of the size required for this had ever been. We then had to unload at Torres Power Station in East Lothian. We had then about a 25-mile journey up the A1, and finally about 1.7 kilometres across fields. And the British Army were very, very helpful in laying down 3,500 panels of trackers across the fields into the museum.
When the aircraft arrived at the Museum of Flight in April 2004, the team that had dismantled it were brought in to reassemble it. In 6 months they had restored the aircraft to the condition you see it in today. It is thanks to their workmanship that the the aircraft looks much as it would have done when it last flew in 2000.
I think it's actually given the aircraft a new lease of life. So from its very low point of being grounded at Heathrow, it's coming alive again.
Who knows how long we may have to wait before we have another supersonic passenger craft. But in Alpha Alpha, we had a dream of yesterday that became reality. A plane both of and before its time.
There you go, Tim. Enjoy that.
Yeah.